death is a second away. People die every 5 minutes from a fentanyl overdose in America. There's 200 a day. It's a plane crash every day that's happening, and we're not doing anything about it, right? And so that's why we're here. The old way is out. The game's changed, the drugs changed, intervention has changed, and treatment's got to change.
This episode of Die Sober discusses sensitive topics that may be triggering to some viewers. If you are experiencing an emergency and need help, please call 911 or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988.
For non-emergency assistance, please use us as a resource. Visit us at thefirmaddictionconsulting.com, or for more information, call us 615-210-6703. Welcome to the next episode of Die Sober. Today I'm joined by my dear friend and colleague, Jamie Vance. He's the CEO and founder of Mind Body Wellness here in Tennessee. Thank you, Jamie.
Glad to be here.
And the reason that you jumped off the page for me to have as a guest early on is, number one, we both know that we've done the work outside of a normal 12-step recovery route. We've both seen the effects of what happens when we do that work and when we continue to stay obedient to that work. Mm-hmm. And we've both seen the privilege that it is to become close and intimate with other men along the way. Mm-hmm. And part of what I want our viewers at home to know is that relationship is not possible. It's probable when we become vulnerable and intimate with other men in recovery.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the primary component of addiction and recovery is connection. Addiction is the starvation and annihilation of connection, oddly with the attempt to get connection. But I think that recovery and moving into recovery is increasing, connection. I don't know about you, but at the end, my world was really small, tiny, 300 square foot apartment, not a good scene. And, here at 20 years sober, it's pretty big. So, yeah.
And talk about that 300 square foot life, right? And the thoughts that go through your head aren't kind.
Yeah. And so that 300 square foot life, it's really interesting because the only way that I could do that was with a healthy dose of delusion. And so at no time would I've ever told you that, hey, I'm not doing okay. In order for me to do what I was doing, which was a lot of drugs and alcohol, and, lying to myself, lying to you, lying to whoever, and, multiple, you name it, lots of consequences. And so in order for me to be able to do that, first off, before I lied to you, I had to lie to me. And what I had to tell myself, the way that I liken it to is that I had this little dude in my head that he just sat in the back and he always said, like, brother, you got this, And so what that means is that DUI, it's okay. It wasn't really your fault. It's all right. You got this. Lose your job. You didn't need that job anyway. You're certainly capable of more. Whatever it was, lose a relationship, no big deal. They don't deserve you anyway. And so it really, I believe that to be the truth. Like I really, really did. And so what it enabled me to do, and you go out here and we could grab a homeless addict off the street, and I'll bet you everything in my bank account that they have a plan. They have a plan. That plan is going to sound really crazy to us,
right?
But to them, it's the truth.
I had that plan.
Yeah, I had a plan. I remember I was homeless, basically. I mean, I didn't own a home or pay for anything. And so I lived in, I don't know if you know what a reefer trailer is. I know you used to do logistics, but I lived in a reefer trailer, which is a semi-trailer with a refrigeration unit that was made into a bunkhouse that sat in the middle of a junkyard in the back of like an agriculture place in Oklahoma, Lawton, which, no offense, any Lawton residents, but not where I want to live today. And that's where I lived. But if my family would ask me like, hey, what's your plan? Oh, so yeah, I'm just doing this for a little bit, but I'm going to buy a bunch of cattle. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, I never for once thought in my life that I was in bad shape. And that's scary. Until that moment in that 300 square foot apartment to where what I say is God paralyzed the liar just for a second, so and I don't know how that happened. It was an average day, nothing out of the ordinary. I've already experienced every consequence that I could imagine, and I don't really know what it was, but I like another day I called into work with a crazy lie, but I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And that was crazy. And that was followed by major consequences. I didn't have a job, a car, all of those, bad things, been jailed many times, friends dying, all that stuff. I predate the opioid epidemic, but trust me, it was bad enough. And, I really don't know what exactly happened other than I know every day for at least a year, I would say, I'm not going to drink today. And I did, or I'm not going to do cocaine anymore. Right. I certainly did. And so
but it's true when it leaves our mouths. It is true as it makes its way, the I'm not statement. I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to use today. It's true.
Yeah.
And I just have no chance. If you're like me, I say that because I want to believe it.
Yeah.
And I just got no chance, man.
Yeah.
I got no chance to make that true.
Yeah. And there was that. And then there's like, you also have this surplus of, I don't know what the right word, but it would be not actualized dreams, so it's like a surplus of them. What I mean by that is like, I would go work out sometimes, I would, I had like a, really nice mountain bike that just sat on my porch that I never rode, but I had all that, but I wanted to, and I would have told you that I do that, but I never did. Right. And I would told you that I had close friends, but I didn't, but I really wanted them, so, so much false in my life that it was crazy. And I was physically dying, for sure. I was young, I was 24 years old. And I really didn't feel good. And I was shaking, before I drank and everything, and who knows what else. But when I got to treatment, I, wouldn't have told you that I would have been in severe withdrawals. But I was, like an old person, right. So it was crazy. But yeah, glad that I'm not there.
That likelihood that we don't believe, no, I'm not going to withdraw.
No.
It's the same reason I would have told you I don't have hangovers.
Yeah.
Is because the trough of normal is so low. I don't know what it's like to feel good.
Yeah, well.
Or to feel healthy.
Yeah, I personally, maybe for some people, right? I think it's true for some people, but for me and anybody like me, consequences, material consequences, jail, you wake up next to your girlfriend and she's dead, you lose your kids, you wreck a car, you do something bad and somebody gets hurt, whatever it may be, material consequences, lose all your money, family doesn't talk to you anymore, will not get me sober. Will not. It won't. Like, I know they talk about like the powerlessness or unmanageability of addiction. For me, the unmanageability isn't that because I have already proven that I can get comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. I can get comfortable in jail. I can get comfortable homeless. I can get comfortable when everybody hates me,
As long as you're allowed to continue to use, right?
Yeah,
I'll get comfortable living in a dumpster.
Yeah, don't take that away from me.
Right.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I can deal with everything, but don't you take my cocaine, don't take my crown.
No. Yeah, it is. I mean, we know now scientifically, right? I don't think I knew anything about that, but we know scientifically that we're hijacked.
Right.
And that, there's no chance. I know families often get mad, and frustrated, but there's no chance of a rational thought when you're there.
Right.
When you've had multiple consequences as a result of your use, there's no chance of you being able to think your way out of that. And
because the same thinking that got me here isn't going to be the same thinking that takes me back out of this jungle.
No.
Right?
No.
You mentioned paralyze the liar.
Yeah.
We all have all of us on this side of the fence, right?
This side of the ground. Yeah.
To all of you guys on the other side of the fence, who are still doing your own discovery on, can I use successfully? Can I drink successfully? If you're already asking yourself, do I have a problem? Player's secret. If you're already asking you got a problem, you probably do.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah. Only an alcoholic would have to ask himself if he's an alcoholic.
Or close to it. Yeah.
But you're on the right track, and we're rooting for you. But we have that you said it. I like the way you said it. Paralyze the liar.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that moment was, I realized that I know exactly where I was. I think the coordinates are tattooed on what's left of my traps. I realized I was alone. The opportunity to continue to do drugs and medicate my feelings of worthlessness were gone. Mm-hmm. And I just had to be stuck with the loneliness and despair and the chaos that I'd caused the people that love me.
Yeah.
And to me, that's when, as you say it, that's when the liar got paralyzed. Like I had to own up. This was my life, and I am here stuck in this environment until some other power says that I'm done, and it could be 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, it was like, I remember that day, like, I think I was like hallucinating, from withdrawals or something, but I was chasing my dog. I thought I was, and I wasn't. And, I kind of came to from that, and, typical, everybody was mad at me. I remember the person I was dating at the time being like, they took a bottle out of their freezer, and because I had said I can't go on, and they were like, and they took a bottle out of the freezer. It's like, here, like, this is what you want, and just go be with it, mm-hmm. and that still wasn't it. Have you ever been on one of those rides at the fair, like the old school ones where you get in it and they're super and they like spin so fast it sticks you against the wall, and you really at some point want to get out, mm-hmm. but you can't. I mean, it like spins. It's called like Gravitron, I think. I hate those. Some people may like them. I do not like the idea of it, and I always wanted to get off of it, but you can't, because you're inside of it. Like, you can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's spinning so fast that you're just like stuck. And that's what I liken it to, my addiction at the end. And that realization that I had was that, oh man, I'm not in control, and I'm not going to be able to get off. Right. And once that realization stuck for me of, I can't get off of this ride, I was begging to get off the ride. But before that, I was like, let's keep going, Right. But after that, I was, and I don't know what, because for me, had a really interesting kind of use history, if you will. A lot of people, and I think it had a lot to do with my genetics and kind of birth order and life. But, I was born with an older brother who was already, 8 years older, really paved the way. Hmm. So, and he died. But so for me, it was easy entry. You know, I was kind of grandfathered into, you know, I didn't have to, you know, gain the trust of the drug dealers. It was granted. And so, you know, I remember I drank, I waited past when the other kids did, but when I drank, it was like game over. And then 6 months later, I was freebasing cocaine, you know, and I look at my kids, they're like 16. And I remember the Christmas Eve of being 16, laying in my bed, feeling like my heart was going to explode because I was smoking crack or whatever.
Right.
That's not normal. So that's how it started. And then imagine
It's not normal, but it was your normal.
oh yeah, like
Right.
that's how it was from then, you know, until I was 24 years old. So a lot of people are like, oh, you got sober young. That's so great. You avoided a lot of consequences. I'm like, no, I didn't.
Right.
I couldn't have taken any more, you know? So yeah, it is also, I think I never, you know, I think that's why staying active for me personally, like everybody's got a different story, but I stay very active in recovery. And I was at a retreat this weekend and they're like, you should always go places you don't want to end up if you're sober. And what that means is like, you know, carry the message to jail, right? Carry the message to whatever, do whatever. You know, there are a lot of different, I'm the last person that's going to tell you what you need to do to stay sober or what that needs to look like. Rather, I can tell you, I can help you, but I'm not going to define that for you. But for me, it's really helpful to stay close to what it was like, because it's, you know, I have a forgetting mind. And so I can easily forget, you know, what that was like. And I don't want to, man. Like, I want to look at my 4 children and look at my life and then really know that, you know, what the contrast could be should I think that I'm in control.
Yeah. I have this rolling, like, I'm real good at black and white. I struggle in gray.
Yeah.
I tend to dress in gray, which is funny because I know it matches all my pants.
Let's analyze that.
Somebody smarter than us is going to have to analyze that. But I've got this list of what my life looks like in addiction. And I've got this list of what things feel like or look and feel like in addiction and what it feels like sober.
Right.
And what my life feels like in addiction is not unlike your comparison to The Ride. Last scene, one of the last scenes of the movie Goodfellas, when the chopper's chasing Henry Hill and he's got that bag of guns and he's just looking everywhere and he knows he's screwed. He knows at the end of the day, he's screwed. He's racing around. He's got to do this and he's got to do that. And he's got to get back to the sauce and his little brother. And it's just like, you look at him and he's pasty, he's sweating. That was me every day. End stage addiction for me looks like, and this is kind of funny to look back now. I had these ski hats. I had a matching pair of ski hats for Christmas and they were kind of neoprene, right? So I would get them wet and I would freeze them. And then I would walk around my house all day and do cocaine by myself.
With a ski hat on.
With a ski hat on because cocaine makes you hot.
Right. Super.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, so that was most of my day was managing my supply, staying high, wearing a ski hat.
Keeping your head cool.
Keeping my head cool.
I get that.
You know, might take a trip to go get rid of some of my product and be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
I might go, you know, get a sweet tea to mix with my vodka. But other than that, man, I lived mostly half clothed with a stocking hat on by myself, talking, having full conversations with my dog, walking around with a loaded pistol, wondering when, like walking through the house. It was a Taurus 45, wondering when I was going to have the courage to kill myself.
Yeah.
And,
not many people understand that, the worst prison, you know, is really between here and here, that you could be in. And I think a lot of people in society and whatever you look at it are there to some degree, right? Luckily, I say luckily for us, that was such a dangerous place that now we have to really try to live outside of it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I really identify with that of like, all of the above, except for I never was, you know, creative enough to do the hat. But it's a great idea.
I've always been a pioneer like that.
I think that that's a great idea. And, I really could get behind, I would have helped you make the hat and I would have bought one from you, a frozen hat. But I think that a lot of people don't understand that they think it's reality, and they don't understand that they're in a fictional prison in between their ears, and that they have no idea what reality, and which is then painful, right? Because we're creating our own stuff.
We're creating walls that we try to drag around,
and
right?
just experience more emotional pain than you could ever imagine on a regular basis, and torment and whatever, paranoia, you name it. And then on top of that, so then what little reality we do get to experience is filtered through that thing. So it's going to be bad.
Right.
And then, to boot, you have no idea, no clue, but you think you do. So therefore you have an opinion on it, but you have no idea how beautiful things can get.
Right.
And so when it's offered, you're like, no.
No, man, I don't need help.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if things get bad enough.
Oh, brother, best, I was blessed to, when I was early sober, to kind of, they say go do 12-step work, which means to actually go to somebody who's actively drinking and drugging and try to help them. Man, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just went, full bore into that. I've rescued people, off of benches and taken them to the hospital, you name it. But I remember one guy in particular, and he had an open surgical wound right here from, and you're going to get this psychology around this. You'll understand. But he had an open wound right here, and it wasn't in good shape. Mm-hmm. He had been beaten up for his pain pills, and those were stolen. And the wound was on the liver, so he had to have his liver, I don't know what, I'm not a surgeon, but I'm sure it had to do with drinking.
Right.
But he had surgery on his liver, but it was like, messed up, and he was out. And I said, man, I'm not going to, give you probably any cash, but I will go get you some food, which is a lot of times what I do. And, if you want me to hang out with you and talk or whatever. And he was like, yeah, go get me a chicken sandwich. But what did he say? He was like, give me a chicken sandwich, but don't get this kind, get this kind, and make sure, he went from like, so wounded and helpless and humble and like, please, to like,
make sure there's no pickles on it.
Right. Low key demanding.
Right.
And I was like, man, I get you. I get you. Like, I totally get that. Like, I totally understand. And then I think I was like, once I got him the food, I was like, brother, is there, can I take you somewhere to get you some help or to do something? I feel like maybe that's what we should do. And he was so resistant and like angry, about that. He's like, no, man, like,
absolutely not.
Yeah. What are you even talking about?
Right.
And so it's like, we can't see ourselves. Yeah. We've lost it.
We have we total lack of perspective when we're in that deep of addiction.
Yeah. And I don't judge it. I understand it,
Right. I mean, looking back logically, I know a little bit of your story. I remember most of mine. There were years worth of benchmark items where someone sane would go, oh, well, that would be the thing to make him realize he's got to change.
100%.
Right. And as that list of benchmark things grew, my circle tightened, the compassion available to me dwindled, right? The resources, emotion, time, money, whatever, all that tightened as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm a known entity. I am a known thief of time, joy, peace, whatever you got laying around. Truth, I'll steal that too. I ain't gonna tell you the truth about nothing. and the biggest lie was to my, like you referenced, the biggest lie was to myself. I was going to make all of it right. I was going to go back and make up all the money that I defrauded my family. Somehow, with some grand scheme. I was going to make right all the backstabbing I'd done within my circle of friends. I was going to Superman swoop, save the day. I was going to somehow, for some reason, finishing college meant the world to me because all of my buddies had done it and I had yet to. And so much of what I wanted was governed by how it would look to the people that I would imagine spent all day worrying about what I was doing, when in reality, I mattered very little to very few people. I only mattered at the end of the day to me. And like my paralyzed the liar, like my moment of truth, like, hey, I'm going to die this way, or I start taking action forward and getting sober today. My moment of truth was realizing I'm alone on this planet by my own actions, and I got nobody to blame but me.
Did you feel like I felt, and I wonder if other people did, like I felt like I knew enough, like it's like all of a sudden I could kind of sort of, right? Like it took me 5 years to get a perspective on myself. But I could kind of tell. And I remember calling a rehab, and they were like, we can't get you in today, but we can get you in tomorrow. And I just, thank God I said this. I said, no, you don't understand. There's no tomorrow. I'm an alcoholic, like a bad one. And it was like, not like anybody had ever really told me this before. I'd never been exposed to recovery, never been to a meeting, treatment, nothing. Like, I just started and kept going and never entertained the idea that I had a problem. I know people said it and, all of the above, and even the justice system had me in like a 52-week program, but still I'm like, it just didn't hit, you know what I mean? But I did feel like if I didn't get help, and that's why when people want to get help, I'm like, let's do it right now.
No time like right now.
Oh man, because
that's a small window to jump through.
And somehow I knew that, and I don't know how I knew that because it wasn't like I was introspective at all, but somehow I knew it, and I just told him, I was like, there is no, like, and I told my family, and I didn't get an intervention, but we didn't, I've since done interventions within my family, but I had to beg to go to treatment because they were over me. It's like everything I said had angles. So going to treatment somehow wasn't going to be genuine. Right. And I kind of had to like convince everybody that I really meant it. So I think that was good for me, but I knew that I had to act right then. I knew that by that afternoon I'd be drinking again.
Yeah.
100%.
And so you went to treatment that time?
Yeah.
Is that when
I had I'm a one-timer, oddly, I don't know. Yeah.
Unicorn in the room?
Huh?
Very rare. You are a unicorn.
I'm a big time unicorn. I think that's the only way it would have worked out. I'm a kind of another kind of unicorn too, because what is a recommended time for treatment?
Now.
I know, but duration, length.
Oh, 9 year better.
Right. And so I went, and not for any reason, like I didn't deny any aftercare recommendations or anything. It was just there was no resources where I'm from. There's a old AA meeting a couple times a week in an American Legion building. And then I was in a 52-week outpatient program, but it was very educational and once a week from the courts. And so, and two, it was like very low motivation, like hyper low motivation. I'd say nobody in there, had an intent of sobriety.
They had the intent to check the box. And
yeah. I mean, totally. And probably some of them, who knows, but anyways, yeah, I went for 2 weeks. It was a special program. And it was designed to be followed up with a lot of outpatient, but I just went for 2 weeks And somehow, and I've never recommended anybody do that. And I wouldn't and I look back and all of the right things happened within my first year of sobriety. I got involved in, trauma therapy. I attended meetings every day. I had sponsorship. I worked the steps. I went to an intensive. I had to do all those things to stay sober, like literally had to. Like it wasn't an option. I don't know, but that's one in a gajillion chances. If somebody were to walk in here right now and ask like, hey, I'm trying to get sober, what would be the plan? Well, intensive family work before you ever go to educate your family. And because when you get out, that's going to come into play. A long-term approach and lots of follow-up and continued therapy obviously is the way to go. We just didn't know anything. Right. My family, probably why I stayed in it as long as I did. But I remember going to my family and saying, hey, I got a problem, guys. This was probably a year before I got sober. Mm-hmm. Said, because I did enough cocaine, it scared me. Like almost dying, And so I went and said, hey, and I don't know what prompted me to do this, but I said, hey, all the money I ever get or have, or you give me or whatever, I do cocaine. And I do so much of it, like more than you would ever think that I do. And, like when we go, because my family would go to the bar together. And I would like, hey, I go to the bathroom all the time when I'm doing coke. And they're like, well, we noticed that we would be at the table drinking. And this was a good telltale thing. They're drinking. The rounds don't come fast enough. So I go in between rounds to the bar and get shots. And then go back to the table and then go to the bathroom and do cocaine. So I am light years annihilated past everybody else. Right. But visibly far more sober than everybody else. That was just my level, and so their solution was like, yeah, I think that you should probably not do cocaine and just drink beer. I'm like, solid, good.
Well, hey, wait a minute. That is a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people on the other side of this camera who would think, well, I just have a problem with Xanax. I just have a problem with Percocet or whatever. I just have a problem with weed. I can drink successfully. I don't want to ruin anybody's day here.
No.
But I think that in my personal and my
it's
professional experience,
scientific.
Yeah. If I have a problem governing the amount and frequency of mood altering substances, if I have a problem with any of those, without abstinence to all, I am likely to continue a downward spiral. Right.
Yeah, I know
that's what alcoholism and addiction is. Right.
Yes.
It can morph. We are all at this point in time, we are all suspect to be polysubstance addicts.
Oh, I laugh. And, scientific probably isn't anybody's favorite word right now, but I laugh because I remember saying I was sober. So the circumstances around this period of sobriety were that I was jailed for 45 days for like the, who knows, whatever DUI. And I was jailed for 45 days. So you can't really drink alcohol. I was on work release. So you can't drink alcohol and go back to jail. Like that doesn't work. Like it's just not a good idea. They're going to smell it and whatever. But I was doing methamphetamine, smoking meth, and during the day, taking pills and whatever.
Smoking meth and going back to jail.
That sucks.
That sounds like it really sucks.
It did. Staying up all night on meth in jail is not good.
I wouldn't put that on my list of like destination.
Yeah, now that I think about it, kind of remembering it and like I'm up all night and I'm like, damn, that was a bad idea. Because that's not the place you want to be up all night.
Right.
Sucked.
I mean, if you're in jail though, you're up all night likely anyway. Because dominoes and spades can't be played quietly.
You don't want to be geeked out. Like I was in the work release cell, so people were going to bed and I was up by myself. It wasn't like there was a game going, something to do. So it was bad. And then going back and getting checked when you're all geeked out, that sucked too. But like, I would have told you that was sober for me. Like I said, I'm sober. I stopped drinking. Like I am sober. Mm-hmm. And I would be, if there was social media today, which there wasn't, thank God. If there was, I would have been putting, you see people that think that they're kind of doing it, that put out all the posts.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I got this. I'm turning over a new life or whatever. That would have been me. Yeah, I would have done that. But I was smoking meth that day. Totally.
Right. Well, the delusion with us is strong, right?
Super.
And it's the fight, and it kind of ties into your take and what I think the newest current and most comprehensive take on what treatment should really look like.
Right.
Is like mind body wellness. Like we have to look at the whole person, mm-hmm. but starting with self, I am at war with myself deciphering the truth.
Right.
Right. And so I need diagnostics.
Sure.
I need accountability. I need to understand. I need someone who can get in front of me and tell me the truth about my condition mm-hmm. so well and so completely that I cannot deny where I'm at.
Yeah. I have never, and I'm going to go ahead and take this one to the bank, because I think I probably helped. You could say easily 5,000, if not more people. I've been doing this 20 years. So a lot of people get into treatment. Mm-hmm. Talk to a lot of families. I've absolutely never, ever, and there's even a school of thought that says you could do this, which I am going to just debunk right now. I have never, ever, ever seen their plan work. And I mean, like, even like if their plan is moderately well-intentioned, if they have a plan, I've never seen them stay sober.
A client's self-administered
or
plan.
Family. Yeah. So it could be either way. It could be the family. The family says, well, I think they need. And it could be also, that is some kind of treatment or some kind of something, or I think they should go see a psychiatrist before they go to residential rehab. Or, I think I need a treatment center that, sticks pins in your forehead and you get to have a puppy dog. And, you could go to any kind of treatment center today. I've never seen that person stay sober.
Well, I'm with you. My career is about half as long. Okay.
Yeah.
11 years. But same vein, when clients or family members start off by telling me mm-hmm. beginning of the treatment plan.
Yeah.
I invite them to redirect or refer them to someone else, because I don't want to be part of a losing effort. I don't mm-hmm. want to be part of a family spending precious resources for something they may only afford to be able to do one time.
There was a really good way to communicate, like, hey, that's not going to work. But it's hard, it's really hard. And, I have gotten, I think the best thing I've ever done was just to be really honest. And there's a part of Shift I have where, if you call me and you want help for addiction, it's not my job, although it has been my job. It's not even that I'm like a 12-step person. It's not any of that. It ultimately quickly boils me down to the truest form of humanity that I am. And I will not BS you. And, that doesn't make me the flavor of the day, and I'm not trying to be. But, what I have found, this, if you know addiction, the reason we write letters in intervention, the reason that all this is that we have to get a little bit of the truth to penetrate through, right. But the family assumes that they don't have the same disease, right? Well, if you're consciously participating in whatever that is,
that being addiction, is a symptom of a bigger disease in the family, right? Like, I lose a lot of customers because I announce that before anybody signs a contract or agrees to work with me, man. I want everybody to know really what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
An addicted person typically comes from a sick family system. Typically. There's always outliers and asterisks, but they're few and far between.
Well, and what's really cool is any success I've had in life, which hasn't been crazy, but it was more than that little, crack smoking dude would have ever had on his own, for sure, has been directly correlated not to having answers, but to asking questions. And so I've taken that same approach and applied it to business. Hey, Mr. Financial Guy, my friend, who's an investment banker, taking a risk in a conversation and saying, hey, I don't understand what EBITDA means. Would you tell me?
Right.
And just staying curious and doing that rather than having the answers. And in business, I always look at that from teammates, et cetera, of, I'm way more skeptical of somebody who speaks a lot and seems to always have the answers rather than somebody who's curious. And I've just taken it as a philosophy for life. It works for spirituality, fitness, whatever it may be. Like, if anything that's a journey that you've got to get better at, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I do, same thing. Like, staying open is only going to help you. I think fear drives us to have answers, and a family obviously would be afraid. But some of the most difficult conversations with families I have are physicians whose children, because they are supposed to be trained to save lives,
right?
But their baby, it's not going well for them,
right.
And so that has been the most difficult person to get in treatment for me. A lot of times, is a physician's child or somebody, or even an attorney or somebody who's supposed to, by trade, have answers.
Attorneys, docs, high performers, high net worth, entertainers, athletes, they need things done their way. When in reality, I think there is some value to not doing things the big box established by the insurance business. But I do see there's so much more value in building commonality and building community for a patient from the jump, right? Concierge treatment can be great, right? If it's demanded, though I see a lot more success in group scenarios.
I'm probably old school on that. Yeah.
Experiencing wins and losses in a group, I think puts an exponent on a person's ability to grow and feel and heal, rather than being dealt with one-on-one. And
I think I used to have strong opinions on what works. What is it? Like, is it this type of treatment? Is it this thing, or it's got to be this thing? I ventured away from that because I've, been around long enough to be proven wrong. But what I do know, is as much as I know my own name and my own phone number, is the mental attitude required for healing and sobriety. Like, I know it when I see it, and it is not, hey, let me tell you how we're going to do this. It's like they hire an interventionist, but then they're going to direct them. Like, no, that is not what this is about. It is, man, I don't know what to do. And when somebody tells me that, I'm like, you are probably going to be okay.
Right.
If you keep that, like, you're probably going to be okay. Like, if you like lean into that a little bit, you're probably going to be really okay. And if your whole family embraces that too, then I think we got a real shot at this.
Right.
But when it is, that fear drives us to have answers.
Well, that fear can drive fear that drives client to own control of his or her treatment experience. I'm going to do the 2-week. I'm going to do the IOP, but I'm going to do it at night, and then I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to hey man, let's just do this best practice and surround you with great tools. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Given all the variables any different family or single person can have in using the resources to get clean and sober, it's a different experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's too many variables out there. But I'm with you. I don't think I've ever seen a potential client go into treatment, use his or her own best advice, and end up sober and happy. They might be abstinent and miserable for a while, but I've never seen long-term sobriety success.
Yeah, no, I don't think we do enough. I think I think the people that, even personally have achieved recovery, but have also done it professionally. I think one of the biggest egregious things that we do, and sometimes really well-intentioned, and two, we talk about meeting people where they're at. And there is a truth to that in a sense, but I think that sometimes we use that and bend it so that it doesn't get too uncomfortable for us. But we hold a responsibility to the truth because it's somebody's life, and it's somebody's little baby girl, and it's somebody's little boy. And we hold that responsibility. So it's like if you go down that street and you know that there are 30 dudes with guns sitting at the end of it firing this way, and you see somebody walking that way, well, you don't tell them, hey, there may or may not be, some danger down there.
Right.
You don't say it halfway. You certainly don't say, hey, there is no danger down there. You say, don't go that way. You're going to die.
Right.
And if they do, you even would grab them maybe, right? Like by the shirt and pull them back and say, no, you're not hearing me. Like, don't go that way. There is no success that way. And I know that when somebody has their own plan that wasn't professionally or otherwise given to them, it was derived by an addicted brain. I know what an addicted brain does. I know what an addicted family system looks like. A dysfunctional family system looks like. And that's the last thing we want to cop to, is that we have a dysfunctional family system, right? That is shame. It hurts us, and we carry a lot of shame around that. It's one of the most freeing things you can do, but nobody wants to do it.
Right.
And I won't curse, but I've told my kids, it was one of, I think, the best things I've ever done for them is like, hey, I F up all the time, and I don't half the time know what I'm doing, and given that, just speaking on that level, of like, but if you can come into the recovery experience with that mindset of, I don't know what I'm doing, because I listened to so many phone calls from people, and I actually did some research one time. It's like, I want to know, what is the predominant feeling? And right, you have to dig, because what you hear isn't going to be what the truth is. It could be like whatever, but if you listen to calls coming in to addiction treatment centers, the predominant state of mind or state is, we never planned for this.
Right.
And I don't know what to do. This wasn't what we planned for Darren. Or this wasn't what Darren planned for himself.
Right. My parents certainly made that call 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. And I and I think about my own children, and I do have a child that's been in mental health treatment, and I'm a professional. This is what I do. Like, you call me and your son needs exactly what my child needed, I got you. But thank goodness, when it happened, I didn't plan on that. I didn't. So therefore, I didn't have the plan either.
Right.
Other than call somebody, I think I called you, I called other people. All right, what are we going to do?
Right.
Because I'm not going to be the one that decides this. And
we're going to cook this.
Yeah, we're going to take a tribe approach to this
and cook it fast.
And and what that opened me up for, having been somebody that's been in this and I don't know how long you got to do something to be called an expert. I'd never want to call myself that, but just for context, should be, right? What it did for me was, I learned a lot because, I really committed to doing my own work while he was in his process. And, tried to, I think that I was beaten into an I don't know mindset, because clearly whatever I was doing wasn't working up to that point, however well-intentioned or loving it may be, it just wasn't working. And that's how it goes. I was too close.
Right.
I was in delusion. And once I figured that out and surrendered to the fact that I was in delusion and allowed people who weren't to drive the bus, man, the outcome was more than I could have ever hoped for.
So, and I want to add treatment professionals to the list of MDs, attorneys, high net worth.
Oh, I think we're probably the worst. We got to be the worst. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, my little boy's right there. If he's got to go to treatment, I'm calling you and saying, hey man, you tell me what to do.
You got to. And it's funny. I had a family member that had an intervention. And I believe the late Francesca McCarter, who OG interventionist, like super OG, beautiful, beautiful person and really good, did the intervention. And I had been working in the field for a while, and I'm the one that organized it because a family called and said, so-and-so is, addicted. And this person had gone from really not drinking much to late stage alcoholism because of a traumatic event like quickly, and to, being in the ICU.
Right.
So I called Francesca and I thought, and it's time to write the letters, right? I'm like, my letter is, and I didn't vocalize this, but I was just like, I got this, like write an addiction letter or, an intervention letter. No problem. I might probably actually be the most helpful person in the intervention because I have experience. I'm X amount of years sober. I've been where they've been. No, I was the most useless. When I started reading mine, they read through that and they're like, wouldn't you think that you know how to do that? I mean, I was a target immediately.
Right.
My mom, who was the most scared, probably wrote the worst letter and was the most apprehensive, but the most probably open. That was the letter that got it. And I was over here kind of managing my mom, being like, here, mom, you gotta,
Right.
And luckily Francesca was like, Jamie, you're not doing a good job right now. Like you need to, I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that ever happened, because what that told me was that like, this isn't a knowledge thing.
Right.
It's not.
And for families out there, that they don't make the plan because the stigma is so deep, this could never affect us.
It'll never happen. Yeah.
Even when if both mom and dad would look back at family of origin, there's been, and this is general, prototype family. There's been mental health issues. There's been suicide. There have been unplanned early deaths, right? There have been traumatic events that would inform that this young person's upbringing has had some adverse experiences in it, right?
Yeah.
That mandates the plan.
Yeah.
And part of what we want to do on this show is help everybody make sure that they've got a plan. Like, what happens if a tornado hits your house over there, right? Where everybody goes.
Yeah. I
want every family in the country to know, like, number one, how to start having those conversations a lot younger, right? I want to help people learn how to ask their kids how they're doing.
Yeah.
When they say fine, say, cool, tell me about fine. Let's go take a walk and really talk about what fine looks like.
Right. Because what we know is and I want to say traditional, or maybe the type of prevention, and I'll tell a little story about it to illustrate, but the traditional prevention, and I don't even know, I'm sure they're past that. I don't know exactly everything that they do today, But for instance, to teach the harms of smoking, when I was a child, we cut out cigarette ads and looked at how much tar and nicotine and bad stuff all of them had in it. Then we made this little like 2-liter bottle that had cotton in it that it's like you could squeeze it and it smoked and got all the bad stuff in it, kind of like a science experiment.
Yeah.
And when do you think the first time I had a cigarette was?
3, 2, 4.
Then.
Yeah.
Like right then.
Right.
Like I stole one of the, because my brain doesn't process consequences appropriately. It only lives in fantasy. And so I saw the Marlboro Man, the Camel Dude, paddling that cool boat, and whatever else, some cool dude at the country club I saw smoking, driving the convertible 442, looking cool. It trumps everything. Right. And so you're never going to catch me with like statistics, or not going to work for me. And so I smoked then, which was the start of a long time, nicotine addiction. But yeah, that's when I smoked. And that was just stuck for me, that like, dude, so something may be wrong with you if during the thing that's designed to make you never do this, I'm sure it worked for other people, like let's call them, somewhat normal if there is such a thing. It worked for some people who are like, no, I'm never going to do that. Gross. Look at what happens to your lungs. Like, yeah, we think that we're dealing with rational folks. We're not. Like,
right. Ration and logic do not apply.
Yeah, I smoked here, like right then. And so, yeah, I really think that, understanding in this current, kind of topic, like that traditional prevention, I'm happy to see that, like, yeah, what can prevent is, radical vulnerability, intact connection and family systems. And we don't know if we'll prevent it, right? But who knows that it might not help in some way. I can tell you it's better than not, having open and honest conversations about shame and not, living in reality, those types of things of like really meaningful, connected things are the antidote or the kryptonite to that addicted family system.
Right. And I think the awareness that those conversations need to start happening well before we're seeing problem behaviors, right? Because everything here, not a political thing, we are reactive in every way to all things addiction, mental health, and wellness. So part of my deal is I want to normalize these conversations with mom, dad, or whoever the nuclear family is around these young people. And let's start seeing how they're feeling, and let's start checking those behaviors when they are, I won't say abnormal, but outside of health. Because normal in today's world and healthy are two totally different worlds.
Right.
Right. And, I think as a whole, we've become lazy because there's screens available. You can pass one off to a child.
Oh yeah, babysitter.
Maybe work a little bit more. Maybe do whatever. But the better we can inform these newer families there's new families minted every day, right? New kids coming into the planet whose parents have zero clue how to be responsible emotional adults because they weren't trained by responsible emotional adults. I want to take normal and make it healthy. And I think it's conversations like this and continued conversations like this where we really give families an idea of how to do that.
Yeah. If you want to do a health check, set the timer on your phone, turn off everything else, and sit there for 10 minutes. Close your eyes and breathe. And see if you go almost absolutely insane with thoughts, desires, judgments, criticisms. And that's where you're at. That's where you're at. That's the best litmus test, I think.
Right.
But so much of what we're around right now, which is understandable, right? But it's in doing It's, you know, I'm huge into fitness and health and all of those things, but what's driving that? Like, when I'm performing that, am I constantly obsessed with my own body and this or that? Well, I'll never be successful at it. Not long term, not in a way that's meaningful for my life.
Right.
You know, I may achieve success, but is that same success killing me? You know, or, you know, a lot of people want relationship, but they've never been with themselves or don't know themselves at all, and or whatever it may be. And in seeking relationship is a very toxic process for people. So yeah, set your phone for 10 minutes, just breathe, close your eyes and see what comes up and write that stuff down. And that's where you're at.
Right. And for families, I think the same principle can apply.
100%.
Turn the Wi-Fi down, turn the screens off. Let's just sit here and talk.
Yeah, you want
10
to
minutes.
know you want to know where your relationship is with somebody?
Right. Put the phones up.
Take a chair, sit it right there. Start the process by looking in their eyes for 1 minute without speaking. Most people can't even do that. The discomfort, you know, the thoughts, the stuff, the internal, like the self, you know, self-consciousness that comes from that. They can't take, I mean, people can't take that a lot of times and do that and then have a conversation for 10 minutes with
what came up for you while we were locked.
Nothing logistic, nothing out there, but right here.
No carpool, no who's going to the store.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And with, you know, a parent to child or parent to adolescent.
Oh, I'm a parent and it is hard, man. It is really hard to, and I thought I'd be really good at it, right? When I was an adolescent counselor in a treatment center and I didn't have any kids yet, I thought, man, when I have kids, I'm going to be really good at talking to them because I get it. No, I'm not. Like, half the time, you know, there's such a gap. Like, I'm like, I don't even think they like me, you know, or whatever. But I try to, you know, connect. And even with my son, I try, you know, anybody, it's really, you got to work and you got to, because I am, you know, I think about different things all day. You know, I'm thinking about business or whatever, you know, more adult stuff. And they're over here. And so usually it takes a big effort for me to get into their world and take the patience to do that and to listen and not give advice. That's the hardest part.
That's a hard part for me too.
Just to listen and even because I want to give advice because I don't want them to hurt. And so therefore I want to tell them what to do. That ain't going to work. And just to be, you know, be with their pain of getting, you know, rejected today at school. Just be with it, you know, be with whatever it may be, or their accomplishments. We have some of our children are athletes and it's like, how do you just be with them in that instead of making that yours? You know, it's huge.
Yeah.
But we need more of that.
Agree. We're gonna keep pushing all that from right here, and I know everything you guys do at Mind Body Wellness is actually family centered, to include family members in progress as allowable. Do you want to take a minute and talk about your platform and what you guys have built out there?
I'll talk about them. I hate talking about myself but yeah, I mean, I think that the team and the whole impetus for the company was, I looked back and I saw a problem in mental health that, like, how can it be community driven? So if you hurt your knee and you go to the orthopedist, like, they got you. Like, you don't have to know about be an orthopedic surgeon to get your knee fixed.
Right.
Right. You just go and they're like, hey, well, So we're going to take you first to imaging, and then, and two, you don't have to think about the insurance is usually covered in network, and mental health, it's oftentimes not at the lowest level. So it is mostly at the acute level. But the weird thing is that there's not a lot of systems for it on the lower level. So that was like the first thing we want to do. Okay. We want to be an in-network service to, provide anything outpatient integrated for mental health at a high quality level. Okay, let's do that. But also, we want to really inform people about what they're going to be doing and create a system to where you don't have to know what's going on. Right. If you look at a lot of mental health, which is good, right? I think this is good. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's hyper specialized. Well, if it's hyper specialized, you got to know what kind of specialist you need.
And given symptoms and behaviors,
you may not know, right? So I think that there is a need for that always, right? Like there is.
I think there's a much earlier general catching net.
Anything that's going on, mental health, you should be able to come in and get just the diagnostics and get that kind of figured out. And I'm going to say it in the most lay terms possible. It's just how I roll. But yeah, you want to do that. So we wanted to accomplish that goal. An integrated and connected system. The actual byproduct that happened was something that I didn't account for. And that is that because we created and attempted to create a mental health ecosystem that, because we know, like, if you want to change anything, be it your health, your diet, your sleep, your addictions, your relational capabilities, your mental health, if you want change, you have to, more than likely, if not always, look at the whole lifestyle approach to change.
Right.
Like if you want to improve your sleep habits, it may include some dietary stuff or exercise or whatever. If you want to holistically do it without just going straight to some kind of drug, which what we know about that a lot of times is it's not a long-term path. And so we also wanted to be kind of whole health driven because the correlation between mental health and physical issues is so high. So let's do them both together. And that's been a part of it that's been kind of a work in progress because there's not been a lot of work done on that in such a way that's incorporated into a healthcare system that takes insurance. But we set out to do that. What I never thought, which is super cool, is that families, by default, integrate into it. So it could be hypothetically a husband. There's a high likelihood that wife and children will at some point go too because it works. And it's a connected system and their care isn't connected or could be on any level that it needed to be, but doesn't have to be. And it works. And then community, we wanted to really lower the stigma. And so you don't have to have like a severe mental health issue. You don't even have to really, I would say, have an issue. Like I go to therapy every week and my life is awesome.
Right.
And there is no driving catalyst of right now. I mean, there was at some point, but where I would say that I need to go receive mental health services. I do because I want to keep reaping the benefits of having a deeper relationship with myself and being more relational and whatever else that brings. So we wanted to really make it that way too, that it doesn't have to be like, a crisis situation. And so a lot of the brand and everything we do, from seminars to groups to kind of, have a coaching element to it, all of that is to just promote it as wellness approach to mental health.
Right. Ongoing and proactive as opposed to.
Right. We can do both. I mean, we can certainly handle, a situation, whereas I need some help, and we're designed to do that. And we do that often, but also we're designed for that long-term well-being, which I think that after being in this for 20 years, I felt like was missing. I would love to say that I came up with the solution. I didn't. Luckily, the right stars aligned, and we have an excellent clinical team that then I was like, hey, here's what, like, really, big picture, maybe what I want to do. And they're like, dial it in. But yeah, it's been really cool. But thanks for asking.
Yeah. Thank you for spending your time with us today, man. I know you and I will probably be on the phone before the day's over with.
Right.
But because we always
that community,
we always cover bases. When my blue jeans are on fire, you're always the first number I call. So
same.
Love you, dude. Thank you for coming on.
You too, brother.